Hello and welcome to class activity number 9, the organizational units. So today we are going to start working with the Active Directory. I'm sorry, excuse me. The Active Directory organizational units. We're going to create the branches of our organization, the company, and those branches are called organizational units. So let's get started, and this way we'll explain to you how it works and how to organize the whole company, computers, users, devices, everything within the tree itself, the active tree. So boot up the domain controller, log in. Remember the password is I love server 2022. And when you log in, I want you to go to the Active Directory users and computers. We pinned this to the taskbar. If it's not, just open up the server manager and go to tools. You should be able to see it there. And when you do, open it up. So let's open that up. And then we'll get started immediately. If you remember, we looked at this. Here is our root of the tree, the XYZ company that we have, the organization. And if I expand it, Microsoft gave us a whole bunch of folders and one organizational unit for it. We're going to leave this alone. We're going to bring our major branches to the root of the XY.local company right here underneath the users, right? So we're going to organize our company. So we have, our organizational companies, we're doing them for the purpose of the organizational units. We're doing it because we want to be able to set group policies to the groups, the users that are in these organizational units. So for example, we're going to create the users, the computers organizational unit, an administration organizational unit, the sales organizational units, and engineering organizational units. So depending, and we're going to put groups in these organizational units so we can control them. Okay? So the reason we want to create, again, organizational units is mostly because we want to create not only for organizing the whole company and where they're depending on the departments, but we also for group policies. All right, so let's start creating the organizational unit. So what you do, you go to the root, just ignore these for now. These defaults, folders and the the domain controllers organizational unit, those are what Microsoft gave us by default. We're going to create our own branches, organizational units, in other words. Right click on the XYZ.local, go to new, and go to organizational unit. And let's name the first one XYZ users. So all the users for the XYZ will be in here. Leave this protected container from accidental deletion checked. So you want to make sure that no one will be able to delete the organizational unit by a mistake. Because if it's deleted, you will lose everything, all the users, all the groups, all the computers, anything that you created in there, it's gone forever and it doesn't come back. So you want to make sure that if you want to delete a container, which we'll do later on, you have to go through certain steps to do that. But anyway, so anytime you create an organizational unit, or sometimes you call it a container, leave this checked. Click OK. So here's our first branch. You see it's a folder with a little icon on it. That makes it an organizational unit. Let's create another organizational unit for all the computers that are going to be in the XYZ company. So go to new, go to organizational unit, and type XYZ computers. All right. That's another branch. Let's create another branch called, let's go to new, and let's go to organizational unit, and it's going to be administration. This is where the president, the vice presidents, the supervisors are all, and whatever they need access to resources. So it's going to be XYZ administration, right? Click OK. Another organization, another branch will be another organizational unit. We're going to call it XYZ sales. All right. And the last organizational unit, the last branch of this company, is going to be the engineering, the XYZ engineering. All right. Now let's say in the sales organizational unit, there are sub-organizational units, sub-departments. So let's create two departments within the sales. So right click on the XYZ sales and go to new. And let's create another organizational unit and we'll call that marketing. All right, let's create another organizational unit under sales called field salespeople, right? Under the engineering department, there are two organizational units. One is testing and one is research and development. So let's create those organizational units in there. So we go to new and we go to OU and we are going to do testing and highlight XYZ engineering, go to new and go to organizational unit. And let's do the R and the research and development group or organizational unit. So there is your branches, right? We're growing these from the XYZ, right? Oh, of course, you can create as many as you want later on. All right. If you click on computers, there's nothing in there, right? So if you click on the computers here, remember the client, when they logged in, they were registered on their computers. So this computer, we're going to move it into the XYZ computers, right? So what you do, you can right click on it, right click, you can click go to move or drag and drop. That's the easiest way. So click, drag, and drop it into the computers. Now, this statement is telling you that whatever rights and privileges, permissions that the computer had under this computer's folder, he's going to lose it and he will gain all the rights and privileges and permissions that this organizational unit has, the XYZ computers. Of course, you want to do that. That's why you moved them. Say yes. And now, if you click on their XYZ computer, you see that the computer, the client computer that we logged in last week or the week before, I mean the class activity, prior class activity, now he is under this organizational unit. Take a picture of this and put it at the bottom of the lab. On our next class activity, what we're going to do is we're going to be able to create users and groups and so on. So that's our next class activity. Okay, but for now, let's say the field organizational unit has a whole bunch of you want to get rid of it. You don't need this department. It doesn't exist anymore and you want to get rid of it. If you highlight it and you do a right click and delete, it's going to say, you sure you want to delete it? It's going to double check. You say yes. And it says, you can't do it. You don't have enough privileges to do that. And why you cannot delete an organizational unit? It's because of that little box that we left it checked when we created the organizational unit. They want to make sure that you are not deleting it by accident. And the reason for that is anything that's in there, users, computers, anything that you created will be gone forever. Okay? So they want to make sure you clean up your organizational unit before you delete it, and you go through certain steps to delete it. So let's assume that we cleaned it up and there's nothing in there, and we want to delete now an organizational unit. You can't just do it like that. So the steps to do that is you have to go to View first, go to Advanced Features, turn that on, and that will give you a whole bunch of stuff, additional stuff. Now you go to where the, I'm sorry, where the seals are, expand it, and you want to get rid of the field, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to right click on the field and go to Properties. All right, when you go to Properties, you go to Object, and now you can uncheck this box where it says Protect the object from accidental deletion. Take a picture of this and put them on the bottom of the lab. So now you have to go through these steps. You have to go through the advanced options and then go to the field, go to the field properties, the organizational property that you want to delete, and uncheck the box. Once that's done, you took your pictures, of course, you took your screenshot, apply, okay, and now we should be able to delete it. If you highlight and go to delete, and now the field is gone. All right? All right. That's really it for organizational unit. You're creating branches, departments where you're going to populate each organizational unit with whatever you want, groups of users. But typically what you really do is all the users of the company, you put them in XYZ users, right? All the computers or devices, you put it under XYZ computers. And then you go to organizational units and you create groups. So under the engineering group, you can create a group that's going to maybe a 12-guy group that's going to be working on a special project. So you create a group and you give that group permissions to certain resources. So in each organizational unit, you create groups of users or give them rights and privileges. You understand? We'll practice that on our next activity. Now we're just creating the departments, the organizational unit. We're doing it for organizational purposes, and that's so that we can actually manage it, control it within the domain, right? All right, so the last thing I really wanted to really talk to you about also, which I didn't get a chance to, is to talk about the alternate IP configuration on the NIC. So open up the server manager and go to configure this local server. Okay, and we'll wait till the NIC comes up because we need the NIC actually. All right, if you click on that, all right, double click on the Ethernet NIC, go to properties. Just want to show you a couple of things and double click on here. All right, you see we're creating a static IP address. So the computer will always use this IP address, no matter what. If this IP address is typed wrong, then there is no alternate configuration the computer is going to do, okay, no matter what happened. All right, if you click right here, obtain an IP address automatically, click on that, you're gonna lose all of this. So click on it. So you lost all your configuration, the static IP. Obtain an IP address automatically means your computer, your device, when it boots up, it's going to search for a DHCP server. And that's where it's going to get your IP address, the mask, and the default gateway from. And they'll talk to each other, the computer and the DHCP server, and he'll be assigned the IP addresses automatically. Now, what happened if the IP address, the DHCP server doesn't exist? You see, when you click this button, an alternate tab came up, alternate configuration tab. This alternate tab would only be used if your computer could not connect to a DHCP server. And it's first configured with an automatic private IP address, an APIPA address. An APIPA address is anything that starts with 169.254. All right, so if you boot up and you type ipconfig on your computer and you get an IP address that's 169.254.something.something, you know that your computer automatically created an IP address for you because it could not find the DHCP server, or this DHCP server is down. Is that clear? Now, if you don't want an automatic IP address to be created for you and you want a specific IP address, you could type that in. You could type all the information in here, but this information would only be used if the computer could not find an IP address, could not connect to a DHCP server. Is that clear? All right, so just to let you know that you could do this. But remember, if you leave this an automatic private IP address and your computer cannot connect to a DHCP server, it will pick up an automatic, it just randomly makes up a number, but it starts with 169.254. And most likely you will not be able to get on the internet or communicate with anyone that is not in the same network as the 169.254. Why does it do that? It's just to allow you to communicate, because the protocol is you must have an IP address to be able to communicate, no matter what. So they got to give you an IP address. So that's why they create an automatic private IP. All right? All right, so let's go back to general. And we're going to give ourselves back our static IP address. And it is 192.168.10.100. Hit the tab key to automatically populate the mask, which is /24. And our default gateway is 192.168.10. Oops, that's not .10. .10. That's 10.1. .1, right? Preferred DNS server 127.0.0.1. That means you're automatically coming back to this IP address as the DNS server, right? 127 is the loopback, the local host. That's the one that you're going to be using for a DNS, which is the same thing as saying it's 192.168.10.100. Alternate DNS, we wrote 88888, but we don't need that because we're not even connected to the outside world to connect to the 88.8.8.8, which is the Google DNS. All right, take a picture of this so I can see that you actually went through and understood what the alternate IP configuration is, and put that at the bottom of the lab. All right, that's it for this class activity. And I will see you in the class activity, I guess, what is it, number 9, right? All right, make sure you shut down the server, go to the start, and power it down this way, right? Like we've always been doing.